It's 18th of June 24. It's 18th of June 24. It's a Tuesday. The election, UK election, is 4th of July 24. And some Scottish news. Apparently, in the latest yougov poll, Reform are at 7% in the polls. I'm just going to look. I thought I kept this somewhere. Labour are, this is yougov in Scotland. Labour are 34%, down 5. SNP are 30%, up 1. Conservatives 13%, up 1. Lib Dems 8%. Reform 7%, up 3. And SGP, I don't know who that is. The Green Party, I think, 6%, down 1. They've not put Alba in this by the looks. Yeah, I encourage everybody to do yougov polls because it feels, because we are in a first past the post system, there's very few swing seats or whatever. So for most of us, our vote doesn't matter really. You've got more of a say in your democracy through these polls than you have through your vote really. And I would suggest Scottish people who usually vote Labour, SNP, Greens or whatever, on one issue you should be basically that one issue, you're trying to save the country from anarchy, in my opinion. You need to vote, well, vote Reform. If you can't do that, vote Tory at least. Vote Social Democrat Party if you've got them in your thing on this one issue. But if you're voting for SNP, Labour, Greens, etc., you're voting for anarchy. Not because of the past, but because of the way the country's going demographically. Because basically a minority is going to be the natives, and Rabbie Burns statues will get toppled. And that it's too sensitive an issue at the moment for SNP voters for that to happen. Yeah, it's going to be a minority situation under the Tories around about the 2050s. SNP and Labour won that much sooner. Probably SNP are even keener, and the Greens are the keenest of a lot, probably. But yeah, so what I'm saying to Agnes and Elsie, who are living in Easterhouse, you've seen how your neighbours and neighbourhoods changed. Really, you need to vote Reform or as a protest vote on one issue, because it's going to be anarchy for everyone. It's not going to be good for anybody. But yeah, on this subject, yeah, because I do these polls, and for a while I've been having to tick other on yougov polls because they haven't listed Reform. You know, you had SNP, Conservatives, Labour, Lib Dem and Greens. That's all you had to vote from, or other. But then they started another, they would ask you who out of them. It didn't give you a full list, in my opinion, but Reform have started to be added. But now they seem to have added Reform on their main front list, their window list. And it's interesting because we've always been told that Reform have no support in Scotland. But I don't think that's true, and I don't think it's even just from Tory voters, even though a lot of them will be. I think a lot of them will actually be Labour, SNP, Green, maybe even Green voters, the ones that school-run mums that have SUVs and go on holiday to Disneyland, you know, Florida, and vote Green. Yeah, on this subject, yeah, because we're always told Scotland's only 4% changed over at the moment. But that was the 2011 census. I'm not even sure about that. It's been growing exponentially each year. And as a young man at the SNP special conference said last year, the 2022 census is meant to be around about 8%. And he said that's nearly 1 in 10 people. And he and his family maybe have a flag in their house, but it's not of another country. It'll be of another country, probably very far away. And his point is Scotland's changing very fast, which the SNP supporters were clapping voraciously for. Stephen Flynn's a big supporter of this. But actually there was a survey around about January or February that I mentioned in Scotland, and it was SNP voters, and it was, what are your concerns? And say there was three main concerns, and then the fourth was quite a bit behind, and the fourth one was independence, and there was three above that that were way ahead, and I think the third one was immigration. So it's shown that among SNP voters, they're noticing that their neighbours and neighbourhoods changing, and they're starting to wonder, hold on, because I would say Scotland at the moment's like London in 1975, say, maybe the early 70s. But we're going to change much quicker than that. So the question to Scots is, do you want to be like London? Because that's what's going to happen. It's going to happen already anyway. Labour and SNP want it a lot faster. So I wonder if this is how the reform thing's coming about, because Nigel's been saying in a lot of his election things, this is the immigration thing, mate. So even just talking about that, and David Cameron has accused him of dog whistle, which I'm glad to hear, and I hope nobody backs off from that, because it shouldn't be a dog whistle. We should be talking about it openly. It should be a human verbal thing we should be talking about, because personally it looks to me as if we're heading for anarchy, and it's going to be bad for everyone. But you're not allowed to say that, whereas if you say we should have open borders, you'll get a knighthood or elected an MP easily and nobody will complain. Even if it's leading to anarchy, I think, in my opinion. So I think SNP voters out there, Elsie and Jerry and Easterhouse, if you're worried about the way it's going, you need to be honest and start voting reform. Use it as a protest vote. I'm not interested in reforms. Other things, I would say economically, I'm left-leaning. I don't believe in parties anyway. I believe that you should be voting on issues, like in Switzerland, where they have quarterly referendums. And that's another thing Nigel Farage has mentioned, that in big issues we should have referendums. So I'm really happy about some of the things he's saying. I'm not happy about a lot of things he's saying about Ukraine and stuff like that. But he's a good protest vote, and he's the closest. I mean, on this issue, we should have a full pause for 30 years or whatever, like they did in America in 1925, I think it was. They should have a full pause. Others would say so that we confuse, but I'm not going to. I don't think we're going to fuse. I think it's just going to be anarchy the way it's going. So I'm not very hopeful. We've got a lot of the new groups, new people in the New British have now got their own identity groups that are making demands of MPs and that. We've got one for one group round about South Asia, and then we've got one for another group now that some of the people of the right say are a good thing for the society. I don't think it's going to work, basically, personally, but now they've got the other one group, as spoken by History Debunked recently, about 2 days ago or whatever. Yeah, I think he's a supporter of them generally. We've now got a court down in London for, I think, the people of India, the third party group. Maybe they would like to see a Kazakhstan, is it? Kazakhstan in India, and there's what's her name, Narendra Kaur said or whatever. She thinks of herself as sort of. Nigel was asking her on GB News, do you think yourself as Indian and, well, British, but Indian? But she was about to say, I'm not even Indian. I think she was going to say Kazakhstan or whatever, or however she wants to call that identity. Yeah, this is the way we're going. We're going to splinter into pieces, but the minority groups are going to gang up at elections to outdo the natives, basically. And it's their right, because they'll be British. If Nicola Sturgeon doesn't like the new policies they come up with, then she's been the R word, and because they're British, Scottish, So, Yeah, it's just interesting. It'll be interesting to watch how Reform are doing in Scotland. Personally, I think they're going to get to about. I think they may become the third party. Actually, I think they may overtake the Tories, so they may get to about 15% or something. And it won't just be Tories that they take them away from. Like I say, it'll be SNP, Labour, Lib Dem, Green voters, maybe even the Greens. It's good to see the Greens getting hammered. They're at 6% at the moment. This poll says that at the last election they were 1%. I don't know if that's correct. Lib Dems. I wish they would just disappear now, really. They're at 8%, down from 10%. Labour. Yeah, Labour are crash. I honestly think it may be a hung parliament, and for the UK. I just don't think people, once I've had a think about this issue, this single issue, which I think is going to cause anarchy, they're going to think, why are we voting Labour, especially Northern Wall voters? Why are we voting Labour? They've got Reform now as a protest vote. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Reform comes second. They are second, actually. In the most recent YouGov poll, they were 19%. I think the Tories were 18%, So I think it may be a hung parliament. Because I just don't think people, once they've had a think about Labour, they won't be going back, especially on this issue. I think this issue sort of the manure and all the bills, all the policies. They're all bad for it. They've all got a bit of this in it. Apart from Reform, even though they've got too much, not good enough. But probably Social Democrat Party are the best. But they're not only sitting in 100 seats, so most of us won't be able to vote for them. So vote for Reform. But yeah, it's good to see Labour going down in Scotland. So SNP are back up to 30%, it says. So let's see. From the last poll, SNP are up 1. Labour are down 5. That's great to see. And I think that's going to happen in the UK election polls as well. I think Labour will end up around about 34% over Britain. Conservatives will be a bit, I don't know, 17%. Reform will be maybe 20%. Lib Dems will be 7%. I'm just making these up, of course. Greens will be 5%, 4%. I mean, as I say, SUV voting Greens, they'll sort of go off them, because you're not meant to have a car. Once they realise things like that, they're not going to like it. In Scotland, the Greens have blocked that road goes up to the north of Scotland, making it a dual carriageway, is it the A9? Once you realise things like that, you think, oh, well, no, I don't. And I don't want to get public transport. So that's good to see. As I say, I think Labour will come crashing down in Scotland and in the UK. SNP, I don't know what will happen to their support. Some of them might go for Reform, I hope so, like the Red Wallers. Because Scotland in the past used to be a Conservative area, really. Up to the 1955 election, I think it was Conservative. But back then, it was because of ignorance, really, we were a provincial area, really. You only had letters and only a few had the phone. Then they started going left. Then left and nationalist, which I don't mind. I was nationalist myself, but now I see how it's going to go. And the SNP, they want natives to be a minorities sooner than any of the others. Stephen Flynn's a fanatic. So maybe there was that debate the other night, on the Friday night, which was 4 nights ago, SNP, Stephen Flynn kept saying how in favour he was of immigration, and when Nigel was saying he was sceptical and anxious, and I think the SNP voters are sceptical and anxious, so hearing Stephen Flynn being so in support of it, it's maybe made some of should do. So as I say, if you vote SNP, in my opinion, you should try and save Scotland as you like it and vote Reform. If you can't do that, vote Tory at least, or Social Democrat Party, or further right. You can't vote any of the other woke ones, Labour, SNP. They're all going to, Lib Dems, Greens, they're going to destroy, in my opinion, Scotland. So that's my message to you. Goodbye.